Welcome, fellow travelers. I am Rage, and I am joining Chibi and Vertek at the Golden Feather. Come on in, grab a seat, and let us share tales of high adventure.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Golden Feather Tavern, where your hosts, Chibi and Vertek, discuss Ashes of Creation and important topics spoken about within the Ashes community. Every week, we invite you, the viewer, and a special guest to pull up a chair, grab a pint, and join the conversation with us. Today is the 14th of April, 2023, and we're on episode 164. Story arcs are all the rage. And this week, we have a special guest with us, a first-time friend here, Rage. How are you doing today, Rage?
Fantastic. Hello, everybody.
Good. I like the word fantastic. It's one of my favorite words. And the lovely and branchlered Chibi next to me, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. And how about yourself?
I'm going to reuse and recycle the word fantastic because I do like it. It's one of my favorites, and it just sounds like it's going to fit. It's going to fit just fine. It's been a long week at work, and that part is over. So celebration time, yay.
Yay.
But before we get fully into the weekend celebration here, let's find out more about our guest. Rage. Not sure how familiar you are with our show, but we like to talk about our guest a whole lot at the beginning here.
Oh boy.
So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from? What do you do? And what drew you to Ashes? What's the big appeal for you?
Where do I come from? I'm Czech. I'm European, Central European time, which means it's 1 o'clock in the morning for me. And what do I do for living? It's relevant. You would find out probably by my comments anyway. I'm actually a professional software tester.
Nice.
Software test management. It's not gaming. It is a financial technologies as banking software and a automotive as is car software. But I do have some insight and some topics sometimes that people don't really see, like the usual crowd. So that is my occupation. And as for what I do in the gaming world, I run a little community. We've recently rebranded it to Hyperion Guild.
Nice.
And yes, I'm a big fan of Greek mythology. And what we're trying to do lately is get basically a community rather than a guild together. It would span like multiple different games, bring people together. But it's been a hard work, as there aren't really many new games to play that would be worth playing. So that's where Ashes come in. I've been following it since that the boom of the Lazy Peons video about 2 years ago, and yeah, I've been very interested in the project.
Very nice.
Yeah, a bunch of our friends came online right about that time.
Yeah.
It was a big old wave for sure.
Absolutely.
It did explode a bit, and then it died out. But I'm sure like there's plenty of us that kept our eye on the Ashes since.
Yeah, I tell you what, we've been around since Kickstarter, and it ebbs and flows. There's big waves, and then there's big lulls.
Oh, so we are the originals.
Yeah. One of.
Yeah, that's actually how we met. Like the day after the Kickstarter ended, we met on Discord.
Yeah.
But yeah. So by the way, if you are watching the stream as well, feel free to interact with viewers and whatnot. We love to do it all the time, and one thing is Sir Unsington saying, nice, dang, I bet Rage's expertise makes him really good at finding bugs in games. So on that point, are you really good at finding bugs in games? Do you enjoy it?
I guess so. Though not particular in, say, in Ashes, because I get that what Steven and many popular streamers keep saying, like, when you do the pledge, I have the alpha one and further. It's like $500 or something. When you do the pledge, you're not actually a player, you are a tester. I'm like, hell no, I'm not gonna play Steven for a privilege to test his game. He should pay me if he wants me to test it, because I do that for a living.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I know. A lot of people have that mentality as well. Me personally, I've been a part of many alphas, so I enjoy the bug finding period. And typically, yeah, I would say I wouldn't pay for alpha testing a game, but this one, just the concepts about it made me want to actually support it anyway. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking. My line of thinking was like, I want to see what it is about, and it sounds really good to me. So I will happily throw some money at them to support the project.
There you go.
Then I might give feedback. I'm not going to be sending any bug reports. Nope, thank you. But I will surely provide feedback. And I actually do occasionally. Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there you go. There you go. I know. Also, I know some people they also went and bought into some of the bigger packages, but they don't like doing bug reports or like digging things out. So they said, "Yeah, I'll do the alpha testing just to get some fun out of the game before it launches, but I'm not going to be testing stuff and really digging for things. If I encounter it, I do, but I'm not going to look for problems." Not their cup of tea.
You never know. Like maybe my inner tester will just get triggered with my OCD when I found a bug and feel this obsessive compulsive pattern that forces me to send a bug report anyway. But yeah, I will not be performing any analysis or looking for exploits myself. No thanks you. Though I definitely would just look at the game and present it to the guildies and make plans like, does this look good? What we want to do? What would be our scope of involvement? And all that kind of planning. This is the part of it that excites me a lot. The preparation, MMO launch is always fun.
Yeah.
If it's fun 2 months later, that's a different story. Yeah. See, that's the trick, is keeping people excited and into it and pushing after the game goes live.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in this day and age.
Oh yeah. The instant gratification age, absolutely.
Yeah.
But since you mentioned the guild and recruitment and such like that, did you have any other information you wanted to share about the guild? Any further details in case someone is watching and happens to be looking for one?
Basically, the guild is what I define as .core. So we are a bit aged. We originally met with a couple of the guys in vanilla Warcraft, in the world of Warcraft. There's only a few of us left, but we've kept we tried to keep the same ethos that we had back in the day. And that was pretty difficult with the classic World of Warcraft, because it devolved pretty quickly with all this tryhard stuff going on, as wall buffs and exploits and this obsession with the parses and damage meters and all that kind of things. And I was like, I wanted vanilla World of Warcraft, but I got classic instead. It was not great. And then we tried basically to come back to pretty much every expansion in Warcraft retail and classic. And I found out the reliable trend was that it got boring very quickly, and each time we tried again, it's the time span is shortened. And now the latest one was obviously the Dragonflight, and that was fun. It's a good expansion, but it was fun for a couple of months, and then it devolved into repetitive content, chores. I was like, nope. And fun thing is that when you jump between classic and the retail, you see that the pattern is still the same. The game essentially hasn't changed in about 17 years, is it? So you still get a couple of dungeons, you get new raid every patch, and that's pretty much it. And you repeat it until you vomit. So yeah, they've added scalable difficulty, they've added like more daily chores and sometimes an odd dungeon or a zone, but the core principle hasn't changed. It hasn't evolved in 17 years. So that might be one issue I have with that. And again, that's why I'm so excited about Ashes, because it's something completely different. Because of the Warcraft success, we had all these WoW clones that tried more or less successfully to copy this formula. So they are all boring in the same way and repetitive in the same way. And then you get what Vertek is mentioning, this or Stephen even mentioned it last week. They try to appease the younger audience with the lower attention span. So you don't want to inconvenience them in any way. You want them to be happy, not to die too much. And if they happen to die, it should be just minor inconvenience of tiny corpse run and stop there. And then you get Ashes with all this old school feel, like there's actual consequence to dying. There's a risk involved in every facet of the game, and that really excites me. It also worries me a bit because it's something we don't have a frame of reference for. You see all these people thinking like asking for features of World of Warcraft because that's their only frame of reference they have. They don't really know anything else. So it's difficult for them to imagine how the interactions will work in the Ashes of Creation. And to me as well, mostly a PvE player, or so-called Care Bear. So the fact that there will be always danger of the PvP, and it will not be segregated from the PvE components of the game, it's quite exciting for me. It's like, oh, I've never done this before. I'll sure as hell try.
Exactly. Since you said the word dadcore, it just got me thinking. There was a guild that I played around with a little bit, and I mean they were good friends of my guild in SOTOR. They're called Old Timers Guild, and that's what their whole thing was. Is hey, we're the parents of all the kids that are also playing, but they're off in their own guilds. We're just here whenever we don't have to watch them in the real life place. when we have our own time, this is what we're doing, and we're here.
And it started basically as my way of making fun of the tryhards, because they all call themselves semi tryhard, and everybody's like, what the hell does that even mean? I was like, you can imagine anything was like under that term. So what is semi hardcore? So I started saying that we are like ultra softcore guild, and then we eventually went into the deathcore.
That works. Nice. That works.
We do have another specific to us that's based in EU. We have a really wide range of cultures and nationalities. Like me being East Europeans, but we have guys from UK, then we have guys from Scandinavian parts, all the countries. There's a whole bunch of Greeks. We have Bulgarian, Romanian, Hungarian. It's like there's such a mix of cultures, and that makes for really good interactions and just banter in the guild chat. And I've been there have been attempts to recruit me in the like specific Czech guilds in the past, and I was like, oh no, I don't want that. Why would I restrict myself to same people as me? So it's, if I can have reach to all these cultures and talk to them about the different things and different views, it's really pretty cool.
Yeah. So I met you on the Ashes official Discord, and we happen to both be taking part of the office hours that Roshan and Vaknar put on. And so how often do you kind of engage with the community like that?
Not really. That was like a one-off thing. That's, as I mentioned when we spoke together earlier, is just someone mentioning a trigger word for me, which made me speak, because I had no intentions to actually participate in the conversation. It was just I was just listening in when I was playing Ark Survival Evolved, but then the trigger word was mentioned, and I was like, hell no. So I felt the urge to share my views and explain to people that the statement made was not valid.
That's fair.
Otherwise, yeah, I participate in Discord sometimes, but it's sporadic when like somebody says something interesting or when I feel like trolling someone, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Sorry. I pinned Silvern's message on accident. I was trying to respond to it and I hit the wrong button. But,
good job.
that makes sense. Silvern says hamster wheel content, and I'm like, yeah, that absolutely can be daunting. Just because after a certain period of time, it's like, this isn't fun anymore. I'm doing it just to do it. And hopefully, Ashes does something unique with their content. So that's kind of why today we are going to go in and talk about some combat and Ashes of Creation. Yeah, it is pretty much WoW in a nutshell. I agree. Which is probably why I lost interest in it. But specifically going to look at a few different aspects of Ashes combat, and the biggest, most talked about one in the community currently is the animations of the combat. And I've seen this multiple places, not just on the Reddit. You guys will see kind of a heavy lean towards the Reddit today because from the last 2 weeks, with the 2 big live streams that happened, we haven't really been able to catch up on specific community topics yet. So I opened up a bunch of ones in Reddit and I got through them and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, that pretty much filled out today's show notes. So I didn't even get to touch the forums yet. But this one is by Sam Su. And they're saying, will they change the animations? The game looks already incredible. They have shown amazing features that were never seen before in the genre, but the animations look bad. The character resting pose is stiff. Same for the running animation. It looks goofy. And the transition between stances isn't smooth at all. And I'm not gonna even talk about the combat animation. It really feels off and unprofessional. And it's not that difficult to change. It's very easy compared to the weather system or the gathering system. And I know Jalon recently went over this and, he begged to differ. It is actually kind of a difficult thing to change. However, I did see somebody in his chat bring up things like, if you're familiar with Unreal Engine and things like that, there's things you can buy off the internet for packages for it. And one of those is walking animations, for example. So I just kind of wanted to bring this up and ask your opinion. First off, what do you think of the combat or in general Ashes of Creation's animations in terms of the walking and the character movement? And second off, what do you think about the fact that with Unreal Engine and the way that the technology is just constantly evolving and getting better, there are more opportunities out there to not have to work as hard at things such as the combat or the animation. Sorry, I got distracted. I saw you choosing and I was like,
Oh boy, yeah. That's a very, very broad question, so stop me if I go on a rant for too long. The animations first in Ashes, I do agree they're not amazing quite yet, but it's way too early in development to actually judge them. Like if you look at it, yes, they could be better. Are they good already? Yes, they are. The Ashes already looks better than many of or most even of the MMOs that are out there. And it's still in like alpha phase, so there's a lot of work to be done. I think they haven't caught up yet since they introduced the split body animations. This is why those specifically the combat animations are looking a bit stiff and weird. But I'm pretty confident they will touch up on it further. Okay. If they could use Unreal assets for it, I'm not sure how that really works. I'm assuming the person that said it's really easy to do is an Unreal Engine 5 expert. So I have my doubts, but there could be copyright issues. Like if it is for a single modder to use, or for a studio of the size of Intrepid, it might be different things. And even if it is possible, would it fit the art style of Ashes of Creation?
Right.
The Ashes doesn't look like anime. It doesn't have like this super specific feel to it, like you would say the games, for example, like the World of Warcraft, that's has very specific art style.
Right.
But Ashes still have a sort of flair of their own. So I'm not quite sure if they could just pick up random animation from the Unreal Engine store and just squeeze it in.
Right, that makes sense.
If they could, still they have the split body. They still have to adjust it to all the weapon animations and all the casting animations for the different races. Like, no, it's definitely not simple.
Those are really good points.
I would go with a no.
Vertec, what are your thoughts?
I honestly don't see the major complaints people are having. Like, I do see the point in some of them. Like, yes, the animations are not what I would call perfect. They're not what I would call ready. But the amount of, oh my gosh, these things are absolutely terrible. These are horrendous. These are from like 1973 graphics and animations and stuff. They're not that bad, guys. Relax. But yeah, they're definitely not done. And I kind of agree with you there, Rage, where there's so much time left in development that's considered like a polished thing in my mind when it comes to animation and moving them around. That would be something more like a beta thing to really worry about.
Yeah. And Talents on the Reddit responds and said, hey, I need someone to explain the running animation gripe. It looks perfectly fine. And then links Ashes, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, ESO, and ArcAge, all who are kind of that older genre and style of gameplay comparative to things like Throne and Liberty and other games that are coming out more recently. And the general things that I'm getting from the community here is that, there's different things that go into it that, I think as the technology has advanced, we have kind of come to expect a new level of just quality when it comes to our gameplay compared to when World of Warcraft first launched. So it's one of those things where I think that as time progresses, with the technology and everything, you have to keep up with it. And the quality of running in some of those older games are not really going to cut it in a newer age game. But you made some really, really good points in terms of there's not only that split body, which is kind of unique to Ashes, but also the fact that it's across the different races, and those races are also custom made, right? So it's just, there's a lot that goes into it. It's I really agree. It's not just that simple to adjust. But I don't know. Personally, I don't really have a gripe on it. I could see the fluidity issue between when you're fighting and when you're not fighting. But again, this is pre-alpha. I think I saw this somewhere else too. I imagine somebody had already responded with this, but they'll probably come back to combat towards the end of making sure all the other base things are there. Because the combat is there. You can fight, you can attack things, and you can walk around the world just fine, albeit maybe clunkily. But the next important part is those other core pieces going into the world, like the open world dungeon, like the crafting system, and things that are actually going to affect the world, that are going to be a bit more complex than just smoothing out whatever animations, I think. But also, I think if you compare this stuff to footage of 2017, 2018, before they did their revamp, I think they've come a long way, but it's one of many. And on that same topic, somebody else, Zen Farty, says, do you like the current direction or look of Ashes of Creation combat? Just doing a simple poll to get community sentiment, not a question of if you like tab or hybrid or action combat. Hoping we can get a lot of responses so Intrepid can see what people are thinking in general. And I really do appreciate that because as a community-based podcast, you know, I think having people's thoughts and opinions really, really matter. By the way, welcome in people who have just joined us. Went on a small tangent. We're currently talking about Ashes of Creation and the combat therein. Feel free to comment and interact with us as we are interactive with the chat. Silverin says, I hope they make up their animations with martial artists professional and make the combat the best the genre has seen. I think that could be cool. I actually got to play test Ghost of Tsushima, and it was really cool to see the behind the scenes of the actual person doing all of the sword movements with the dots all over him, and then seeing that put in the game. So it was like a 1-to-1. It was an actual person that was like making mocap, basically. Yeah, I think that's what I meant, mocap, not makeup, but yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling that for one, yeah, I'd love to see mocap in Ashes. That would be great. But I have a feeling if it ever does come, it's probably going to be a couple years down the road. At least. They're going to need to make sure that it looks like it's going to be successful enough to pay for itself. Getting the that and then the voice acting as well.
So it would be either in the nice to have or will not have yet bucket.
Yeah.
So that's something. But yeah, I agree. That looks pretty amazing. I think first game I've seen it in was the Witcher 3.
Nice.
And it definitely had the impact on it because all the sword movements were just real.
Yeah, absolutely. Revan says, correct me if I'm wrong, but they hinted that they were trying to do mocap in one stream last year that they mentioned it. I remember that they were talking about moving into a new studio and having space for mocap, ideally. I don't know.
Missed that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still within the plans or if things have changed since moving, but that was definitely something that was mentioned in passing at one point.
So that could be still in the scope in the future in that case. That would be nice, but I'm guessing since we haven't heard about it since, that it's either far off or they're just not ready to show anything on that yet.
Very
Probably not in the scope for the Alpha 2, so might be a bit further off.
I could imagine that maybe even as like an update to the game down the road, potentially. I'm not sure though. Finally, for those of you that like playing tankier characters, spitball idea for blocking mechanics by Milak Sleaze, I think is how you say this person's name. And they were talking about how Stephen was recently saying that they're experimenting with how active blocking will work and what cost comes with it. And they had a shower thought about something that's a bit different and kind of interesting. Blocking could work based on a set of counters or like tokens, purely a resource gain and lost in relation to combat, not viable. So they kind of lay it out in this way. You have a hard maximum amount of block counters based on class or archetype. So for example, tanks would have a maximum of 10 counters while mages have 3. Blocking an attack will consume a counter, and if held, it will be in effect for, say, 0.8 seconds. So you don't get drained of all your block if multiple attacks hit you all at once. Holding block continuously will just continue to spend in counters rather than having to keep refreshing every 0.8 seconds. At this stage, we can see tanks are able to block for a total of 8 seconds without doing something else, and mages can only do it for 2.4 seconds. And I'm just going to leave it there. You guys can go look at the rest of that later for yourselves. But what are your thoughts on that kind of point system or resource system for blocking in general?
My thoughts, or
Yeah, whoever wants to go first. Usually guest.
okay, I'll go then. It's a layer of complexity, and it reminds me of another secondary resource which the tank already has. So I would say, personally, I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea to give like tertiary resource to a tank. I'm assuming the other classes will have some sort of unique interaction as well, and the primary mana is always there. So I agree, active blocking is not great. It doesn't really work in the tap target system where you usually have the passive blocking stat. So, and we have seen the sort of passive stat is there because the presentations usually show the characters that evade in the floating combat text.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to suggest how to do it, I would say make it use the mana, make it like really scarce resource, so you have to decide if you want to use your other abilities or you want to use the benefit of block and make the mana actually scarce resource to interact with all these other systems, rather than build upon it and make it a completely separate system with its own resource, which just adds a necessary level of complexity that not everybody will be comfortable with.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, the way they're describing that sounds very much like just a stamina-based system that's already been kind of discussed, except it's a little bit more fluid in UI nature. So instead of just having a counter, you need to have a certain amount of stamina built back up before you can block. And there would be a little bar that measures it as it goes up or down, and you can block that stamina bar's worth of stamina points. And potentially a dodge could use some of that stamina too. That's one that they're already kind of kicking around at Intrepid. And to me, it's one of the easiest and most straightforward, but the not being able to dodge roll if you've used up all your stamina is something that many people will not like.
But I do like the fact that he considered like different classes having different values for that research, so he did spend more than 5 minutes thinking of it.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, like, the way it sounds to me is kind of similar to the way that Rogue is with their combat points on World of Warcraft, where there's the little yellow dots or however many that you have available, and then you can spend those combat points to do more advanced combat maneuvers. But instead of it being more advanced combat maneuvers, it's blocking. And I kind of saw where they're going with it. I think it was an interesting direction at the very least. I also don't really like putting input on this stuff because I typically play healer. So, I mean, sure, maybe as a cleric wearing plate and things like that, I might be doing some blocking. But let's be honest, I'm probably going to be the person running away trying to heal myself at the same time. Because that's just my play style.
One thing I think that's major thing that is missing in this thought process is how would you differentiate the shields from weapons and their block capability, because I really don't think it would be good immersive systems to have a shield block the same value as a dagger. That's just bad implementation.
Yeah. Let's see, some of the things from chat. Valheim blocking was the best, and that's actually something that Vertec and I have not played yet, so I can't really refer to that. I did try, by the way, on my last coffee quest to play test it, but unfortunately the thing that I was directed to did not exist anymore, so I couldn't play test it for like $1, but I was hopeful. I just don't know. Yeah, Valheim. I just didn't
Valheim blocking was just the generic stamina-based blocking with the nice twist that it had a skill element to it. If you perfectly timed your block, then just stunned your opponent.
Okay, cool. I think I've seen that in a few others.
Generic stamina blocking.
I don't see how a chibi turret can run away when she's pew-pewing off of her six back. That's fair. That's fair. I could just hide back in the backpack, though, probably.
Well, see, I can run away, and she would just be following along with.
Yeah, I'll just be quietly healing both of us from inside the bag.
Yep.
Lark says the last game I played that had blocking was Chivalry 2. I think where it felt decent. Valheim is a great game to play as a couple. You two should definitely give it a shot sometime. Well, we just might try that at some point if you guys really like it. I do have a new goal set up for another community night, and if we do meet it, then I will definitely consider doing a Valheim day. Also, hello.
It goes on big sale too.
Yeah. I guess on that, we can go ahead and move right into a related thing, which is some game systems. And we have another kind of lengthy post for you on the caravan system. Now, we chatted with Sir Onsington. He actually made his own post on this previously. But this is from Full Weedu. And they think that there's a potential problem with the caravan system potentially diluting fun. And let me just go ahead and send this out there. Jumping on this, singular small scale multiplayer blocking is very different beast than when you have 999 other players on your screen. Valheim blocking feels nice, yes, but I cannot see it working in Ashes as well. Caravans are a hot topic, I agree. Thank you for your input there. Yeah, it's one of those... Lark, thank you.
Hey, Lark, thank you so much.
I will cheers to that for sure.
Cheers to that, absolutely.
For the Valheim Fund. For Valheim.
For Valheim.
So, yeah, I think, thank you so much. But yeah, I think caravans are a hot topic lately. And so this person says, stop and really think this through. What makes a trading run fun? It might seem subjective, as it may be hard to grasp the following without having experienced it firsthand. And that's actually what I was going to say about the blocking. Some of the stuff is hard for me to really respond on without having tried it firsthand myself to really get a feel. Because I'm a feel kind of player with my feedback, not a look. Because looks aren't everything. It more matters how it feels when I play the game. So there are two types of trading runs I've come across. One, you spend money to buy valuable, which you can then sell at a guaranteed higher price somewhere else. The focus is on the trade run itself. And the second is you spend your time and money to acquire a valuable, which you may or may not sell at a higher price somewhere else. And the trade run is just a byproduct. And so they're trying to point out like the nuance. It's instant fun versus higher stakes and delayed gratification. In the first case, entry fee is monetary. It's simple and instantaneous. There's guaranteed potential reward granted. You overcome the adrenaline including challenge. That is the trade run itself, meaning it's predictable and your full focus can be on the fun part of it all. However, the second case, you have to spend your time, effort, and money before you can even pay the fee to start with the trading run. The reward is not guaranteed, and you also risk failing the run itself. And their TLDR is a risk that is chasing immersion and logical outcomes. There's a risk that in chasing immersion and logical outcomes, or may I say realism, that what actually makes a trading run fun is neglected because of that. They're just trying to make sure that it gets heard in case it wasn't already considered for the game, essentially. So that's their concern, is that by much more simplified TLDR, I'm worried that the caravan system is going to take a lot of my time and effort and not really be worth the reward, is what I'm hearing. What are your thoughts?
If that's the concern, I would say just don't do it. You always have the option to go with the how they call it, the not the regular mounts, but the beast of burden kind of type. I'm sure there's a specific term for them. Mm-hmm. But you can do that. We need to see it. There's much more complexity to caravans than the poster just mentioned, because we need to see that. My concern obviously is with the latest statement that the inventory is not weight based, but but slot based, which is like, okay, how does that work in the caravan system? Will the caravan have 20,000 slots? Because that might have really impact on inventory management and make it annoying as hell. And will this would like planks stack in 20s or 200s? Because if they stack in 200s, then my beast of burden mount would be purely sufficient for my own purposes, and then the caravan will have a little use. So we need to see the input of that. But when you get into how much fun the caravans can be, I would say there is huge potential in that. And you would have to play EVE Online to see the real scope of it, because the caravans will have political and and other impacts. Let's say your enemy node you're in war with would use some specific resources to reinforce it, then you would definitely want to intercept their caravan, and there isn't really any incentive like monetary or personal to do it. You need to do it for the good of your own node or guild, right, or whatever is the reasoning behind it, and you really want to stop it. And then you can have the personal interest as well. If you know someone is moving something valuable, then there will be additional layer of intrigue and spying. You would like to find out when he's moving it, in which caravan, which route is going, and then he would probably use a decoy as well, and that just adds a lot of potential for player interactions. So I would not underestimate the caravan and saying that the system will be boring. It will be anything but boring.
Yeah, absolutely. And before Vertek goes, Sir Onsington said, I think Stephen addressed this in the streamer Q&A update, where he confirmed that alternate pathing through the Underrealm will add complete complexity and excitement. So with that, Vertek, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I think it's going to be just fine either way, because there's going to be people who they want to be involved with the entire process. Like, and I got an old buddy from SOTOR. On Twitter, he goes by Econ PvP, and OnRes. But that's his whole spiel, is he'll get into a game and just figure out how to completely run that economy down to counting absolute coppers at the very beginning of the game. Like, this one sells for that much copper, and this one sells for that much copper, and if we do this and do that, then it'll end up, I'll be, a 10% gain, but that 10% gain in the overall game isn't very much. But when you start with that much, it can snowball heavily down the road, and he understands that. And I could definitely see him being kind of nuts about this system and kind of wanting to be a part of all that because it's going to produce the most profit, really. But then I could also see him going and trying to do something that's going to speed up the process, but have a little bit slimmer profit margins, which is kind of addressing what Ashes of Nera is saying about he doubts people will... let me see here. Nera says, I honestly don't think we'll see a lot of people doing trading runs where they buy low one place and sell high another place. I think we will. And the reason I say that is because it's going to include the people who don't want to take the chance of a caravan run. So they're going to go farm all this stuff that's local to that area, and they're going to put it up on the auction house locally for a decent profit on what the time that they spent to put into there, right? Someone else is going to say, I don't want to go out and farm all that crap. I just want to get the caravan and do the caravan run, and that's it. Like, get me in, out, and done. I want to be done with this profit in the next hour. And they'll go and buy everything under a certain dollar amount on the auction house. They'll stuff it in a caravan and start running. And profits are going to be lower for both of them, but then they both have the part of the game that they like. The one person doesn't have to worry about the PvP aspect of defending your caravan and hoping it gets there before it gets destroyed. And the other person doesn't have to worry about spending 3 hours watching Netflix and digging up turnips in the field.
Those are very good points. And I think that there's also the third perspective of preferring to, instead of also grinding out whatever materials, attacking caravans to get that, because that is far more worth the risk, right? Because, also, as Nair says, the caravans primarily will be run by players for moving their own gathered or processed goods from one place to another. But I think that, that excitement for somebody who enjoys PvP like Zalexia or Wizzy, I think they will enjoy attacking a caravan to try to get whatever goods are inside of the caravan. And, that's a gameplay loop that they enjoy more of. And I really like that there's 3 people there that get to potentially enjoy their gameplay loop. There's the person that's doing the original gathering, there's the person that's trying to improve on the econ, and then there's the person that just really loves PvP. And I think that's part of what drew me to Ashes in the first place, is it really is a game for different player types. And the idea is that they work together.
The Mercenary Guild's going to benefit from everybody. Just saying.
Absolutely.
I think what Chibi refers to is the people that think like hammers and all the caravan looks like nails.
Yeah, exactly. Alexia says, caravan sounds fun, even if you got a group hanging out in Discord running them together. Absolutely, it could be fun. It'd be like, oh crap, man, somebody's coming up on our rear. We gotta protect the caravan. There's just. It's an engaging and an excitement thing, especially in a group format. However, the way that I play most of the games before seeing Vertec, or even with Vertec, is just by ourselves most of the time, up until recently with our guild. And so that would be much less fun or enticing for me is if we were solo instead of a part of a guild doing it. Because then... Go ahead, sorry.
I think there's another facet that we forgot to mention, is that yes, you could move it bit by bit personally on your mount, but that is not risk-free either. You still are on the risk of being attacked and the portion of your goods being taken away from you.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if the geopolitical situation is bad, as in if there is a guild that your guild is in war with, an ongoing guild war or a node war, and you are free target, then moving in the caravan might actually be the safer way.
Right. Because then you have more protection there with the armor and everything of the caravan. Sir Ensington says, that sounds exciting. You bought super low, so it's not a huge loss if you do lose, and you're taking it to the other side of the world for, say, 10 times the pay. And that's absolutely what I was thinking. Nara says, I hope we'll see nodes needing special materials where the mayor puts up a quest for 10k hardwood delivered to a mountain node, perhaps, and people using caravans for that. And I could see that going out and sourcing whatever materials are potentially necessary for building any sort of freehold or building on the node, and needing to go out and source locally nearby for those kind of things. By the way, we are about to have an ad start in about 30 seconds. So for those of you that are not subscribed, this will go for about 3 minutes. I apologize for the length. However, it does ensure that there is an hour of no ads. So we are over here trying to always fight the ads as much as we can. So just a heads up. Let's see. The next one is going to be talking about the class system. Because some people have played other games like Lost Ark. And this person, I want to say Gel might be his name, 44. When would you prefer to choose your class? And, oh, hello, welcome in. Mr. Valentine, welcome in, says caravans will be extremely useful when the local ecosystems is run on low resources. Absolutely, I can see that too. Yeah. I wonder how our players going to move stuff from their freehold. It used to be that players could start a caravan from any storage, but more recently, Steven say that must be a caravan. Sorry, yeah, it's a good question. Remains to be seen. But. Now that I'm caught up on chat, just because I have to swap tabs, so I like, oh, there's people. I saw confetti happening.
Confetti was occurring.
Confetti was great. So this is actually something that I touched on before, like a long time ago, and people kind of shot down my idea. But they're saying, would you rather choose your class at character creation, or would you rather learn it from a class trainer? Both sides have merits and downfalls. Learning from a class trainer for your first tune is more of a narrative experience. Instead of your character just being what it is from the beginning, you get a story on why you're a novice, whatever it is. You get to experience your tune selecting the class from a story perspective. You can also go through a tutorial-like section, get a feel for the game, and then choose your class. Since alts are not going to be as prevalent for the main's progression, ensuring you have what plays right is essential. I play different archetypes depending on the MMO. New World, I liked ranged weapons. Lost Ark, I liked playing tank. Guild Wars 2, I liked playing as mage. I want to try Bard and Ashes of Creation, but I don't know if I'm going to like the class for the game. I imagine learning from a class trainer, you could go around to the other trainers, try out those classes, then make your final selection. This game stresses risk versus reward, and choosing the wrong class type can really impact your first impressions on a game. It's also it's a lot of risk and not much reward. Since choosing your main archetype is such a big deal, being informed on the choice beyond reading a character sheet is important to me. And I'm just going to stop it there. Again, this is a little bit more of a lengthy one. But down in the comments, somebody said that they liked how Lost Ark had it, I think, where you could kind of try the class before you played it. And I presented this idea specifically for the secondary archetype perspective. But I do like the story immersion idea. What are your thoughts?
Or immersion idea on classes. Well, my thoughts, I'm pretty easy either way. If you choose the class at the start, or if you're slowly introduced into it, it doesn't really make any difference to me as long as there is a class and there is a class identity. And I think we have that, like the secondary archetype. That doesn't really change your class. It just gives it a bit more flavor, in my opinion. It does not change what your role is within your group. So I would skip over the secondary archetype completely. That's not super relevant for the class identity. I think it's just a flair and flavor. The primary one, of course, that's something you should consider. And from my own experience, I always make a wrong choice when I start a new MMO, and that's the part of it. Like, I found out what the systems are, how things interact, how the game plays, and then I was like, okay, this is not really fun. I think the other class would be more fun than this one. So people are always free to choose, and probably the best thing is to try it yourself. Like this, if the leveling process is as lengthy as Steven expected to be, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're free to try whatever you want. But since I happen to know that Chibi and Vertec have got some beta keys for you guys, you can maybe beg them and get into the beta as well and try all the classes.
No need to beg us. We were actually planning on giving them away eventually whenever that comes around.
Yeah, we're going to be saving a couple for what few friends we have that didn't already buy into the game, and share them, and then the rest are going to be given away on this channel.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
This is something that we actually had to talk about on this channel a long time ago, and my idea on it is something similar to what Neru said, and it hasn't really changed much since then. Because the original idea was, when you pick your archetype, as you're loading into the world, like going through the gate, right, from Sanctus into Vera, you would have, say, a god or goddess or somebody, one of the higher powers help create the gates to transport you, kind of explaining some things to you, like you're about to return back to your ancestors' home world. Things are different there. It would explain why you can suddenly do magic as soon as you arrive. You can do magic. Yay! We just came from a world that had 0 magic, and now we can do it instantly and go quest from the first 10 minutes of arriving on the planet. It would explain that. Like, here's what you need to know about the place, and kind of give you a little bit of a tutorial while you're traveling through the gateway. Mm-hmm. And originally my thought was you pick your class and then you can play your class through that tutorial, right? Your first primary archetype. But then I got to thinking, how neat would it be if during the transfer over, like you start as just a person, you're on Sanctus, you're learning about, what's going to happen, you're about to go through the gate, etc. You have 0 class, 0 archetype, no weapons, no armor, no nothing. Mm-hmm. And then when you hit the gateway, you can choose one of 64 pre-built characters, one for every class, that have a pre-built scenario that will let them shine their strengths and their weaknesses, for that matter, and let you really get a feel for the class while you're quote unquote loading through the gateways. And then once you get on the other side, you can say take 5 levels at a base of warrior style, or ranged DPS style, or magic caster DPS style, or a healer. And then once you hit level 5, then you really get your primary archetype, and then 25 or 30 you get your secondary archetype. And it would feel like a constant progression, and you'd really get a chance to feel what a top level of that class would feel like before you even make the choice on that's the direction I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with that. I don't think you really can get a feel for the top level class, because you will be missing a lot of augments from your religion, node citizenship. What else? They've got these organizations, as they called it, like NPC guilds. So it will definitely not give you a complete package. But I see what you mean. It's like, I would just say that you should not get the feel for 64 classes, but just the 8 will do, really. Just to give you the idea of the base mechanics, but leave the customization options which come from the secondary archetype and all those extra augments you can get. Leave them for later. They're not going to really change your role within the game. They will just give you flavor and let you customize your gameplay a bit more.
Yeah.
But those can be changed. You can change your secondary archetype, so that's not going to affect your decision, really. It's not going to affect your primary class.
Well, I kind of beg to differ a little bit, but that's also just because, like, it's more of a situational difference, right? So if you think of Mage, who has the ability to use Fireball, and that fire is more effective against other things in certain seasons, for example, then if you use a secondary Mage and that augments your primary things, does that mean that potentially there's some sort of dungeon out there where whatever you are X Mage makes you a little bit more useful versus whatever you are X whatever else, because of your elemental advantage? Or potentially, maybe that's also another reason why you get picked last, because they don't want that elemental advantage that doesn't actually provide an advantage in this point. But right. I think that it has a big potential, your secondary archetype, to really change not only just the flavor, but like how your primary archetype affects the world around you. And that's to me why the secondary archetype is a really big and important decision too. But at least you can adjust that more easily than your primary archetype. So I do definitely feel like the primary is more important of a choice, with the time and effort that you have to put into it to get up to whatever level, and also of course the death XP that so.
You've touched upon the wretched topic of the tryhards and their meta builds. If there is something that gives you a 0.5% advantage over the other builds, then the first one is the only way to play.
Yeah, I think it's going to kind of depend on a lot of situations, though, because I have a feeling it's going to vary between different dungeons, different areas, different regions. If you're doing PvP or PvE, if you have this secondary or that secondary as well, and then what skills you choose.
even if it gives you the advantage of certain dungeons, there's no guarantee that your server will have access to that dungeon.
Exactly.
And
so
also,
that's why I'm not sure if there's really going to be a true meta.
Right. And that's kind of where I was going towards, where like you may have more of an edge on this dungeon, but the next dungeon you definitely don't have more of the edge. So that ebb and flow I think is important. Tryhards make me laugh. Most of them are slightly above average players who can't even make use of half of a percentage difference. Ouch. I feel called out.
I'm just saying, just because I'm bad doesn't mean I can't use all the help I can get, okay?
Right.
I'm very much hoping that Vertec is right, and there will be just so many variables that the meta was not really going to be a thing, because it might be fun for some people, but I doubt it's fun for the majority of the player base.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to finish up, like my last statement on it was going to be if everything works according to Steven's dream, and no DPS meters means that there will be no toxicity, then it won't really matter. The meta won't ever develop because nobody will have the ability to figure out which one's better, right?
No plan survives contact with the enemy.
Right. Sarantine says, Elephim, raid on Oglish, fireball, parser, mages need not apply. And Lark says, do you guys think you will be nomads or settle in one node and stay loyal to it?
Node mads?
Nomads, yeah, like node mads, I see. But like, yeah, I think my primary character will be wherever our guild is, and I'll just be there. But I'm planning on making an alt, just to do some more of the fun, crafty animal husbandry systems and less of the PvE focus that I usually take. And it'll be kind of like my somewhat survival, because I have to fight people with PvP, but my somewhat survival-esque playstyle with like animal husbandry and such. I am not a murder hobo.
That's it. That's gonna be another character name of mine. Murder Hobro.
Oh no. Let's see. J-Rock says no, not at all. I think they will just test you other ways. It'll be even more toxic.
Sorry, I didn't get your response though. Will you be a node squatter or a node mod?
For me? Yeah, no.
You said it depends on the guild.
No, my primary character will be, like, it depends on what the guild is doing. And my secondary character, probably more nomad, like walking, or like running around, getting different things.
Yeah,
crafter life.
I'm probably going to be a mix of them, to be honest. Right away, I'm going to try to be able to buy one of the actual houses in one of the early growing nodes, so that by the time it becomes a metropolis, I'll have a house in town. And then stay there until I either get bored and I sell the house to somebody else for a bunch of money, or if I think the place is going to be going down here soon because I heard whispers of this really strong other node trying to burn it to the ground, then I'll sell then. But at that point, yeah, I'll probably look for the next node that's going to grow up into a metropolis and try to get a house there.
This is one of the things I've have a hard time predicting how this will swing, because the Intrepid says that your node citizenship is your top tier allegiance, and it supersedes your allegiance to the guild. That's difficult for me to comprehend, because I have very strong feeling about guild identity and loyalty to your guild. So I cannot imagine anything that would supersede the guild for me. So I thought it's probably what our guys were gonna do, is like at the start of the game, at the launch, we would just make a beeline to that little island on the southeast and try to build up our node there, because expectations are that the first 4 metropoli will be at the Divine Gates.
Yeah, sorry, I'm dying over.
We go over there, boys, and we claim our land over there and defend it with teeth and nail.
Yeah.
There you go.
Solver I didn't mean it.
The name's Hobro. Murder Hobro. Junior.
So the next thing I have, I kind of linked it in there already, is a YouTube video from Nice Gaming, who we've asked to come on eventually. However, our times don't really work as well with them. But he made a video on Elden Ring of MMOs, being like Ashes being the Elden Ring of MMOs and kind of setting its own thing. And it's kind of tied in with the whole risk versus reward and how hardcore Elden Ring is of a game, and how heavy that risk and reward is. And I don't know, I have to agree. I think in general, I think Ashes will be one of the more heavily risk reward games that comes out, and that will definitely make it be that niche gameplay versus something like PAX Day, where sure there's going to be some risk versus reward, but I don't think it will be to the level and depth that Steven plans for it to be.
I have to admit that I haven't played the Elden Ring, so I'll bow to your expertise.
I haven't played it either, but I don't. It's a general Dark Souls game, and apparently they have a what do you call it? A penchant for a type of gameplay, kind of
yes,
like all Diablos.
With the concept, I'm familiar with. I just haven't played any of those personally.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think risk versus reward is a bad thing. It's, again, Steven mentioned that recently. Like, I would say nobody, but yeah, probably there will be people, but nobody in my generation, in that core people, likes to being cheered on for killing a trash mob.
Well,
no, we go way back where we actually had to work for our money.
Yeah, seriously. But here you go. So for a frame of reference, do you recall any game ever where you had to die like 25 times, and each time you tried something different and you just could not figure out a way to beat this thing until one time you finally beat it and you just felt so victorious, and it was an amazing feeling, but you had to die like 20 times before you could take it out?
It was way more than 20.
Well, imagine going through an MMO where every single dungeon boss is like that. Every single world boss is like that. A lot of the elites are just about that bad, like very near that bad. And then as you're walking up to them, you see this blood pool on the ground that indicates that at least a handful of people have died right there in that spot very recently. And then you see a bunch of blood splatters, and you know you're about ready to walk into something you're going to be dying for the next 45 minutes before you can walk away from. That's the feeling of a Dark Souls type game.
You could definitely extrapolate that, but that's the whole, again, concept, risk versus reward. If it is easy to achieve a goal, it doesn't really feel impactful. So instead of chasing the small dopamine hits, I personally prefer to put a lot of effort over killing a boss. My example would be, again, from the World of Warcraft vanilla, when our guild was breaking upon Valstrass for about 2 months. Imagine being stuck on single raid boss for 2 months. It nearly broke the guild, but we did it at the end. And in the current day and age, that basically if you form a poke and if it doesn't happen within three attempts, they would just disband. So the modern gamers probably cannot imagine something of that scope, but yes, two months worth of time.
Yeah, I could see that. And then for these, we're getting close. It's already.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So these are just kind of like real quick touch and go. Didn't really plan for a full in depth. So actually, this is perfectly planned, I guess, in this case. We were just talking about AI right before the show and how you've dabbled with AI and just playing around with it and such. And Roar, who we've had on before, made a video about Ashes having a must-have feature of the voice acting lines and such. And so there's this conversation about AI and voice acting. and how I'm extrapolating that Roar was essentially saying, with the use of AI, there's really no reason to not have voice acting in the game. What are your thoughts? Just real quick, touch and go.
That's real quick. I disagree with it strongly. I don't really have a quick reply to that. If I would to go in more depth, I would touch on how the project management works and how must-have is a very strong phrase, and that's the top layer in prioritization categories. And his suggestion is actually about 4 levels below. It's in the category will not have, which is for category specifically for scope creep and ideas for potential future DLCs or content. So I'll leave it at that. But if anybody wants details, it's called a Moscow. It's because of the abbreviation, doesn't have anything to do with Russians. It's called the Moscow prioritization categories. It's a part of Prince 2 project management, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think getting AI in there would just replace a bunch of voice actors with 1 person or 2 people or 3 people getting the AI to say stuff and then adjusting its vocal inflection and everything. So it's still going to be costly. It's still going to be time consuming. It's still going to add a lot of money to it. The only gain is going to be longevity. You don't have to keep hiring the same person to come in and do the voice acting. You don't got to worry about anything happening to their voice. You don't have to worry about them demanding more money because the game took off like a rocket ship and became really successful. And now they go, hey, last time you paid me X dollars, now you're going to pay me 10 times that for the next expansion.
Yeah.
So it would be a lot more consistency because you can get anybody to an AI after it does something.
Yeah. So some things that chat is saying, Steven just needs me to have me voice AI for him. I'll do it for free, Tolnar only.
I'll say that if you suggest that idea to Chris Roberts from Star Citizen, he'll probably go for it.
Okay. Probably. Nair says, I think we need it for accessibility reasons. It's like an advanced TTS for those with dyslexia and vision impairment. It'll take people, it'll take a people or 2 to implement, but super cheap compared to a real voice actor. To me, it's a complete no-brainer to implement. Zaria says, voice in my head is cheaper, but I do like the creative idea. And now, of course, people are saying for the Tolnar in the chat. So I don't know. It's one of those, like, it kind of depends, and it really depends on, like the legal things behind it, because at this point it would be used instead of me playing around with something and making a voice AI say whatever I want it to as a person. Intrepid would be doing it commercially, in which case then there's monetization that comes in account, and for basically, like, a lot of the people that I look at when I'm looking at art, there's one price for personal art and another price for if you plan to try to resell that art using something. It could be like a sticker. So I think it kind of depends, and I think this, like, AI stuff is new enough that if you take advantage of it, you take advantage of it for now, but then later down the road there's going to be rules and regulations that kind of come into play behind all of it. People need to remember not to piss off Doors and Tolnar. We just collapsed your entire continent in the soil. The
Tolnar
legality.
is not friend. Tolnar is food.
The legality has to be figured out, of course. Yeah, maybe, but we're way cooler. We were starting that yesterday. Nice. But
I think it would be a great question for Steven. I'm pretty sure it has been considered. We don't really know what the assessment is, how much resources and money it would cost. So that would be a good question for Intrepid. Otherwise, it's just your fields crafting here.
I agree. All right. And the second question, the second one we have in our random topics is a would you rather. And I especially would love your perspective, Rage, because you're from the EU. We obviously have different costs of living, different monetary incomes. So this is from WowStar19. And they ask, would you rather pay $20 to $25 a month with no cash up or $15 a month with a cosmetic only cash up?
Oh boy. Controversial opinion. Actually, if you check the questions for Intrepid, I've asked a couple of times if it would be possible to just pay double of triple subscription and opt out of cosmetics, because I hate cosmetics.
Okay.
It's one of probably the only one I actually do. One thing I hate about the Ashes is the existence of cosmetics, because that is not the old school feel we had back in the day. Back in the day, if you looked at the person and what gear he had, you knew what his achievements were and how far in the game he was. So this is very important facet. And the other one was when I actually caught Steven slipping on it, was in one of the streams. He was talking about armor and the silhouette, how it gives you a sense of threat assessment. So, if he wears a heavy armor or a medium armor, and I already see the scenario when there will be 20 people charging me all in the wedding dress, so I cannot really assess what kind of armor they're wearing just because of the existence of the cosmetics.
Okay.
Yes, I would definitely pay double or triple subscription if there was no cosmetics. And the technology obviously is there. Lost Ark does it with hiding the vanity pets. You can hide them in your client, so you don't have to see that. Mm-hmm. Also, very nice feature. I hate those. And the only problem is appeasing people that actually are buying cosmetics, because they would probably feel wronged if some people could hide their purchase and they couldn't show it out on our throats. Yes.
Okay.
I'll pay triple. I'll pay $60 for that, not just 40.
Bashi is asking if the cosmetics are epic, could only be applied to epic gear, would that fix it for you?
If it was in-game achievable cosmetic, that would fix it for me. Something akin to Elder Scrolls Online, where if you won the title of the Emperor in-game, then you had in-game cosmetic that would differentiate you from everybody else. Okay. But otherwise, it's still the problem. It could be partially fixed by applying only cosmetics of heavy armor onto the heavy armor, and the wedding dresses only on the casual outfits. So that would negate the threat assessment problem. Mm-hmm. That could appease me as well. And then, yes, if it was a legendary obtainable item, that would have like very significant visual appearance, and you can put another of a similar tier, I would say, yes, it makes it more acceptable. But I still hate cosmetics.
That's fair. Fair time?
I would pay I'm perfectly okay paying the lower amount and having a cosmetic only cash shop for multiple reasons. For one, I can decide how much I spend outside of the basic monthly cost. And for two, I do like cosmetics. And for three, I think they said they were going to be at least entertaining, if not enforcing the idea of in like node sieges and whatnot, where they're really trying to pack a lot of people in there. They might just be automatically turning off the cosmetics and stuff just to make it, if nothing else, easier for people to see what's going on without stuttering and losing FPS and whatnot. But yeah, I'm much more for the let me decide how much money I want to spend camp.
Yeah.
That does not include the extra cost, though. If you would do it for the way I asked for it, it gives you optional premium subscription with the option to opt out of the cosmetics. That could technically appease both crowds.
Yeah, but I think
enjoyers.
I think in the spirit of answering the question, the way that they're putting it out there, like just the $15 in cosmetic only cash shop, or the cosmetic shop not existing at all in any way, shape, or form, and you pay $20-25 a month. Seems like the spirit of the question, if I had to answer just with one of those and not really like a mid-grade option, I'd have to say the $15 a month. And there still exists a cosmetic shop.
Yeah. Silverin says, I'm a mog slut. Ain't no one's business what gear I have. Also, big fan of limited UI. No one needs to know my health bar, my level. Zarya says, chill, everything's so expensive already. Which is, you know, a big thing, because if you think about it, if you're paying like $30-40, you're getting a full game for that on like the Switch starting, right? And so it's one of those, like, it kind of depends on the type of player that you are. $15 a month to me seems more reasonable for over the whole year in general. And I kind of lean towards that, but also I also like being able to pick and choose if I want to get an extra cosmetic or not. Then cool, I have that choice. But I do feel nice to have the in-game achievable cosmetics. Those are more my desire than the cosmetic shop ones. Cosmetic shop probably more purely for RP reasons. In-game, more like, look what I did. it's a point of pride for me. So it's one of those, as a role player, I love the cosmetic shop. As a PvE gamer and a trophy tryhard, I like the in-game achievables. This is Alexia. Well, actually, first off, Nara says, I do like the idea of turning off the cosmetics. Lark says, Steven does sound married to showing them off without filters. Alexia says, I'd be down to have 2 equipped cosmetic sets, one that shows in safe areas where you can wear anything, and one in combat areas where you are limited to wearing things that match your armor type. Nair says, for the extra money per month, I would expect all those cosmetics to still exist, just be all in-game achievable. And honestly, if that's the case, I probably wouldn't mind, because I know there's been a time or two where Vertec and I have missed out on a cosmetic, and we're just like, oof, that literally matches what we're going for with our characters.
I think there probably will be. If I'm correct, Steven mentioned it, that those cosmetics will appear in game. They're just not gonna appear in the same exact
Coloring
shape or
and
color.
stuff. Yeah, and I think one of them was a purple one, or purple-esque one, that Vertec missed out on, and very paladinous.
They're going to appear in game, but not necessarily achievable by players. They're going to appear in game as some other asset, at least.
Yeah,
it's not. The emphasis on that statement was more just to say, like, we're not making these strictly for people to buy, and that's it. We're making these for NPCs, or we are making these as NPCs, and then we're modifying them a little bit and putting them up for sale.
And finally, Sir Ensington says, no cash shop for more sub is like no PvP for more sub. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
But yeah, no, I mean, those are valid ideas, and this is why it's a conversation, right? And looking at this, it is heavily weighed towards people would rather pay $15 a month with a cosmetic only shop than pay $20 to $25 a month with no cash shop. And I mean, I do absolutely get the feels when I'm in a game. I'm like, yo, that looks so cool. Where'd you get it? And they're like, yeah, I bought it. And I'm like, oh. You know, it's one of those, like, it feels a little bit bad because I don't want to put more money out than whatever, unless it's really worth it for me. But I mean, sometimes it's not really all that worth it for me. And then I'm just gonna do some quick wrap-ups for you, if that's okay. Did you have the Friday fan art ready from what Ashes put out earlier?
I can in a moment.
Okay, so then while you're doing that, I'll go through the official Ashes news, as well as some of our own official some of our own news. Goodness. So Rage, who I met at community office hours, I would also like to say there's going to be another community office hours centered around dungeons, and I plan to try to be there, provided my schedule works out. Here is the forum. It's for April 20th. I will be in Miami at a React conference at that time, so I may not make it, but I'm gonna try. I really enjoyed meeting Rage and hearing everybody's opinions in the last one that I joined. And here's the Discord event to add from the official Ashes Discord. So that way you guys have an idea of what's being discussed, what they're looking to talk about, and sign up for that to get reminders for joining in on that. And I honestly enjoyed that. It was a very enlightening experience for me because I care about what the community thinks and feels, as does Vertec. That's the whole premise of our podcast. And so Rage was kind enough to join us today. Thank you for that, by the way. And
thanks for having me, guys. It was a pleasure.
Of course. I really enjoy hearing other people's perspectives, even if it doesn't necessarily align with mine completely. That's all the more reason to have somebody on, because I like hearing other people's, thoughts on stuff. Okay. Yep. Cheers. I don't know why we're cheersing, but we're choosing.
Somebody tossed up a cheers in the chat.
Oh, okay. Jax Fox, hello, welcome in, first time chatter. What are your thoughts on always PvP on and griefing opportunities that the open world PvP serves? If we are allowed to ask questions, you're always allowed to ask questions. Mm-hmm. We definitely love having your questions here in chat. This is a good wrap-up question, I guess. I would say I don't really enjoy PvP very much. I'm very much a PvE person. I tend to avoid PvP as much as I can. But that being said, where there's PvP, there's bound to be people trying to corrupt. And I think the corruption, or not corrupt, but grief, and the corruption system should be, in theory, in place to help mitigate some of that.
The murder hobros out there always trying to corrupt.
But then there will be bounty hunters as well.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta look out for those murder hobros.
I think this is the kind of half an hour question.
Yeah, it is. So definitely feel free to join us. We do start about an hour and a half earlier than this. So feel free to join us next Friday and, ask any other questions. Also join our Discord and we can have a lot more time then to answer at length your question. But that's a good question. And then the only other thing is yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to answer the question also. My thoughts on the PvP always on and grieving opportunities is basically the same as Chibi, except I'm a little bit more open to the open world. I kind of like it. It adds a little bit of excitement. And I think that unlike games like World of Warcraft, where there's no penalty for just running around killing everybody as much as you want, even being 30 levels higher, there's going to be some heavy penalties in the form of corruption and gear drops that are going to be actively enforced by bounty hunters running around trying to get money from killing people who are corrupted. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a self-enforcing system that I think is going to help out a lot. And I'm really curious to see how well they tune it.
Absolutely. So to finish this up, as Vertec gets the art up there, some TGF announcements / reminders. We do stream 2 other days right now. Technically it's supposed to be 3, but Sundays are currently a tentative until after the move, which is usually when we play D&D. Vertec will now be doing Saturday Coffee Quest, 10 a.m. ish. I put there because we're not entirely sure when he wakes up. Sometimes he sometimes is up really late. And
sometimes I get murderous insomnia, but it's at least a little bit more predictable than when I get off work some days.
Yes, and that's also why I'm taking over Mondays, because I get off of work at a predictable time, and so I'm able to more often come on at the right time and hang out with you guys. So we're just going to swap days, essentially. And curious on tuning too. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the answers. Of course. Margie will be on tomorrow, 20 hour 30. Maggie. Yeah, Maggie will be on with Chaos and Lease tomorrow. So you guys should see that on Tangents of Creation. And then, of course, we got reached out to today with a partnering potential, and I just kind of wanted to take this moment to be very transparent with you guys. We will not take any partnerships unless we ourselves like whatever product or thing that they are trying to give us. So just FYI, if you want to look into this yourself, it's called Dubby Energy. We're going to be purchasing our own package of their stuff. They recommended the Pushing Punch and Blue Tears Energy. So I think I'm going to see about grabbing one of those. And Vertec and I will try it first before we even try to take on any sort of partnership or paid whatever. Because we only believe in promoting products that we like. However, it is favorable towards them because it seems to be very similar to like Monster Zero, where there's a lot of natural supplements that give you the energy versus a lot of the bad stuff that's in some of those energy drinks. So yeah.
Here you go, Bochi. Again, I'm dropping the link in here just for convenience. We're not exactly endorsing this as of yet. We have not tried it at all.
Yes, but it's something that we're looking at.
Yeah, looking at the ingredients though, it's fairly clean stuff. It's a lot of vitamin B's and vitamin C's, and you got taurine and coffee plant extracts and things like that. So it's not a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
Just sugar thrown in there to give you a sugar buzz or anything.
Yeah,
but we'll see what it turns out like.
Yeah, so we'll let you know. And I might even do like a little video or something and put it up on Instagram of us trying it. But yeah, and aside from that, Jack Drags 13 did this cool art piece of a Pyre fighting somebody. I don't know who. I love energy drinks. If you guys like it, I'd be down to check it out. Perfect. I'll let you know. My doctor told me I'm low on VB12. There might just be vitamin B12 in there. So there's a lot of it in there. I think it was like 1,000% daily dose or daily recommended intake or something like that. But lucky your B6s and B12s are hard to do anything negative by having too much of it. Yeah. But Rage, thank you so very much for giving us your very wee hours of your Saturday morning. Goodness, I'm already trying to advance this to Sunday.
Thank you too, guys. Been a pleasure.
Of course. Yeah. And once again, if you want to plug your stuff, I'll go ahead and I'll do the guest thing. There we go.
Plug stuff. Just
your like Discord and anything, anywhere you want people to come check out your stuff.
Any closing thoughts real quick about yourself?
I can absolutely reach our .core if that resonates, the .core principles with people. They can absolutely reach our Discord and the links you're probably showing. And just a friendly warning though, at the moment there aren't really that many games worth playing, so we are a bit dormant. But I think come summer it will start kicking off with some changes in the survival games and Diablo, which I think is an MMO, though some people will disagree. Diablo is an MMO. We'll see if we can have some fun together in that as well, and other platforms.
Yeah, I agree, Sir Ensington. A lot of people are definitely dormant right now because there's just not a whole lot happening in the gaming world right now. A lot ramping up to happen, but not a whole lot actually happening.
Throne of Liberty, potentially, though we don't really know much about that. They don't talk much, which is both nice and scary. Yeah,
absolutely. If you like Throne of Liberty, I would suggest checking out Rive Genesis, who we've had on. He does a lot of Third and Liberty videos, so if you're interested in that.
Yeah, I was just trolling him a couple of hours ago.
Yeah.
Nice. There you go. So yeah, the art here, by the way, the Fan Friday is from Jack Drags 13. They just posted it up on the Ashes Twitter earlier today, and they asked, what do you think this Pyre is trying to face off against? And our very own Chibi Bree said, what did you say? What was your response?
Oh, I said, by that foot to body ratio, I'm thinking a Cyclops.
Yeah, this is a big old tall leg right there.
Yeah, but it could also be perspective.
Very well could be. But yeah, so thank you everybody for hanging out. Just so you know, as we're winding down here, unless anybody wants to steer the raid, I do believe we're going to head over to Tech Deck 22 because it's been a while since we've dropped you off over there, and he is currently in most need of a little bit of support.
Yep.
Just because he's our friend with the lowest number of viewers, so we want to kind of help out. He's a good guy, and he does fun things, and he is happy to drop what he's doing and chat with you if that's what you want to do. So.
Yep, absolutely.
And so thank you everybody for spending your time here. It is invaluable. You do not get it back, and we would not give you a refund even if we could, because we agree to a time too. But,
I have a closing thought.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we are fully caught up on our live streams being put on YouTube. So you can either catch the VOD here or wait until Thursday. However, if you are a subscriber, I will be putting it in the subscriber only chat after I give it to Rage before it goes live. So yeah, no refund. Sorry. I have to talk to the Time Lord or the Time Mage for that, and I don't know where one is. So good luck.
Get some Doctor Who action in there. Yeah, I'd like the past hour back, please.
For me.
But either way, everybody, again, thank you so much. Just sitting in here chatting with us is the greatest support you can possibly give us. So we definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Bye.